DMs, what are the best backstories players have come up with at your table? Let us know in the comments below. At my table, I currently have a bard whose family were all amazingly talented performers, while he is incapable of actually singing or otherwise performing. However, his natural charisma is so high that everyone just kind of assumes he's good at it. His favorite disguise is only a pointy mustache, accompanied by telling people who think they recognize him that they really don't. I also have a drow wizard who's escaped to the surface world because he fucking hates spiders, and one day cracked and started to burn them all. And an Aarakocra cleric who is on a quest to obtain 11 herbs and spices. Neither of us quite know what Paylor is going to do with them once they've all been collected, but once the party finally figured out the joke, there's been a lot of roast chicken comments. I have mostly run one-shots, so not much backstory involved, but we had a kobold who turned out to have not one but two separate personalities inside her. One being imitating the souls of her killed flump community, who then became a therapist after COS. A human fighter who got adopted by a noble family and there befriended my character before disappearing for 2 years. Same house, so I know the laws. And after those 2 years, my character gets a letter signed by first name, last name, third name, indicating slavery. That was a fucky moment, and I loved it. I had a half-elf ranger whose father was an elven confidence man. He wooed her human mother and impregnated her before he made off with her husband's fortune. And my character was raised begrudgingly by her stepfather, who was trying to do the honorable thing. My character decided to stop being evidence of her mother's greatest mistake and became a bounty hunter in hopes that she could one day find her father and bring him to justice. My wife played a chicken Aarakocra sorcerer that's just a normal chicken given sapience and a human-like form from an experiment gone wrong from a mad wizard. All she wants is to be a dumb chicken again. I made a swashbuckler Yuan-Ti pureblood who had stolen a gnomish experimental submersible and used it to steal from noble families and engage in acts of terrorism against the ruling class. My DM went wild with it and wrote a series of one-shots around it. I then created his older brother and used him for the Curse of Strahd. The backstory was quite a bit more elaborate than I've described, but that's just the gist of it. When players get really deep into their characters, it makes the game so much better. We've got a campaign that's currently taking place in the delta mouth of the River Styx. The party got here unexpectedly, and one of the PCs had died on the journey, but he went to a different underworld. Their new character was an Aarakocra bard who hired a Marinolith, one of Charon's ferrymen, by the way, to escort him to the underworld to find some lost sheet music. He also wanted to find a legendary group of heroes to write a ballad about. When his ferryman arrived at the party's island for a pit stop, they also booked passage with the ferryman. Shenanigans ensued, the ferryman is dead, and now the Aarakocra bard is basically stranded in the underworld with the party of chaotic adventurers who he will definitely write a song about. But it will not be the glorious ballad he set out to write initially. I had a first-time player that amazed me with her outline, though we never had a chance to flesh it out. She was playing a human paladin who lived as a hermit for years as penance for some grievous wrong that she was guilty of. She had received a vision of a tragedy that she had to take up arms again to prevent, so she was going to take an oath of redemption and try to stop it. And it wasn't complex, but we never even fully explained what her past sin was or what she had to prevent. But for a first-time player, it was such a heartfelt story that I loved it right away. In a COS game, I played a redemption paladin who was a former mercenary that died on the battlefield and went to hell. Luckily, he had used the money he earned from killing to purchase and wear a pendant of gold with a large diamond in it. The diamond was for a cleric to revivify him, and the gold was payment. So, as he was being twisted into a devil, he was revived. He was pulled into Barovia, and he figured killing Strahd would earn him redemption. Or at least he could kill Strahd and usurp his power and domain of dread to avoid hell. Honestly, not the most noble forms of redemption. He was a real bastard, one of my favorite PCs. One of my players in our second campaign played an elf spy from a nation we established in our previous campaign. They were essentially Navy intelligence and had been tasked with spying on one of the fleet captains who was into some shady shit. Said fleet captain had pissed off the gods, good job, and a huge storm hit their ship in the middle of a voyage to another powerful nation. The shady captain teleported away and the Navy spy, the PC, was aboard and died. The last thing they remember was seeing the face of the goddess of death looming out of the depths of the ocean and a voice saying, "This death is not for you." They then washed up on a beach in the nation they were going to 90 years later. The shady captain had risen to power, and the destination and their original nation were in a cold war on the brink of exploding into an actual war. Also, the PC who had been, we agreed, a 12th level or so rogue before dying, was in a body that felt wrong and was now a 1st level cleric. One of my players is a monk. Her grandmother, supposedly, received a curse from a coven of hags decades ago that one child every generation would bring great sadness and death. Her uncle knew of the tale and killed himself once misfortune started to befall him. Her parents didn't want that happening to her, so they kept quiet about the curse. However, her mother was still convinced the curse was real, and it was what caused her brother to commit suicide. So she sent her daughter away to a monastery to either train and become strong enough to fight the curse, or ensure it happened away from her family. While training, she snuck out one day to watch a parade for the crown prince returning from war. She climbed a roof to get a better view. She scared a cat off the roof, which fell onto a vendor, who was startled and accidentally threw what he was holding. It was a tomato. It hit the prince in the face, and when the guards and prince looked, they saw a man holding tomatoes. He was ordered to be arrested, but his fellow citizens tried to stop the guards and protect him. This led to a riot, in which the crown prince was gravely injured, but escaped. The king then sent soldiers to kill everyone and burn the town to the ground. The monk blames herself and is keeping a running total of the number of people she saves, until it equals the population of that town or the ones who died. She changed her name, wears a mask, and ran away from her old life as a member of this monastery. She still doesn't know about the curse. I once told my DM that I was a living skeleton and my entire backstory was whatever they wanted it to be, as long as I discovered it in character. The campaign fell through, but the DM told me they planned on having me be the undead version of the big bad evil guy who did a bunch of experiments and lost my memory to my own memory gun. If only that campaign had continued. Currently playing, instead of being a DM, in Doomed Forgotten Realms as an Oath of Vengeance paladin. She's been raised as an aloof rich kid who trained to be a paladin out of spite for her parents. Circle of Stars druid dad, arcane trickster rogue mum, life domain cleric brother, assassin rogue brother, and divination wizard sister. She's seen her entire family slaughtered before her eyes. In the name of our Lord and Savior Vecna. And as a sword was plunged through her stomach, she used her dying breath to make her sacred oath. She vowed to avenge her family and right the wrongs done to her. I've worked closely with the DM to have her family be raised from the dead at some point to spread Lord Vecna's word. She will either betray the party and end up killed by those she loved, or betray her family and kill the memory she has of them. The DM is stoked about the plot points, I'm stoked to play it, and our party has no goddamn clue it's coming. My friend made an elf rogue whose backstory is a princess that fled from the elven kingdom to avoid being forced into an arranged marriage with the prince of an orc kingdom. Her refusal only increased the political tension between the two and caused the fall of the elves. Now, she lives as a rogue, moving from place to place, paranoid of being hunted for being one of the few survivors. Since we are playing Dragon of Icespire Peak, where there are a lot of orc-related missions, it really spiced things up. My players created a crime lord NPC that is a common thread between several of their backstories, fleshed out with enough characterization in the backstories to make them an absolute fixture in the campaign story. He's not the big bad evil guy in the campaign, but I've made him a major player with his own goals that clash with both the party and the big bad. It's a nice element of chaos to have at hand, and depending on how things pan out with encounters, could even succeed in their plot to the point where they're a greater threat to the party and the world than the big bad evil guy. I made a pretty basic backstory about how my home was destroyed in a war against the orcs and I was the only survivor. My DM has made a redemption arc for my character that we've spent at least 6 months on. For reference, we meet almost every week and have only missed 4 or 5 sessions in that time. We are currently inside a giant walking mountain about to fight a very large group of orcs. My players? I killed someone and ran away, is the best I have ever gotten. I wrote an intricate background once for an elven ranger whose child had been stolen by a hag, she didn't know that, and turned to worshipping Malar as she hunted progressively more dangerous beasts, honing her skill in the quest to find and slay whatever took her daughter. She drew the Void card in our second session. Bye-bye. Joined a campaign in process for a sporadic series of one-shots. Was a dwarven brewer named Miller, who had a llama companion. He called the llama his emperor, although nobody was sure if Miller was insane or if this llama was actually some deity in disguise. Miller's whole purpose in life was to serve his emperor's needs and to try to perfect his brew. He kept a large tankard on his back of fermenting brew, and as a cleric it was blessed, so a mug would give you 1d4 healing. But it would also require a con save as it tasted terrible. It became a hilarious plot hole for the group, as after the first one-shot he vanished during the night, and they awoke early the next day to an ambush where the majority of the village they were in had been killed and Miller was the main suspect. They caught up to him a couple more times, and each time was more chaotic than the last. He saved a downed party member by nearly drowning them in terrible beer, the player being genuinely unsure if they were saved or attacked in the process, and none of them could speak with animals, Miller included, to be able to determine if the Emperor was a real deity or just a regular llama that Miller was obsessed with. It wasn't till the last session that he announced his catchphrase. If you're ever in trouble, never forget, Miller Light Brew's draft tastes great with less filling. Oh god, not sponsored. He left then with the tankard backpack with the party that I believe they promptly used as an improvised thrown weapon the next session just to be rid of it. Come on. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below, DMs, what are the best backstories players have come up with at your table? Let us know in the comments below, and if you ever want to support the channel and keep us making videos for all of you boys, girls, non-binary pals, and everyone and anyone, make sure to join our membership program. You get early access to videos and our eternal gratitude. We love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy. Toodaloo for now.